With blowtorches, hacksaws and grinders, Columbus College of Art and Design students are initiating major changes to the transportation industry. CCAD is in the business of recreating new concepts and defying what is traditional. This college has had a long tradition of disruptive design where ideas are continually broken down and reinvented. And now CCAD is doing this with basic mobility. But why tear apart the idea of transportation? Why change the way we move? Mobility needs to change because the concept of transportation is changing. The auto industry is beginning to look at autonomous vehicles through CASE technologies. CASE stands for Connected, Autonomous, Shared and Electric. Transportation needs to become accessible as costs increase. As an important part of our future, these changes will make a big difference. Anticipated mobility solutions can solve a multitude of problems. The most important issue that can be addressed with CASE can be found in flexibility and affordability. This new type of transportation adds to the communities and a potential great number of users. With a partnership through 99p Labs, a digital proving ground for mobility and energy innovators backed by Honda and the Ohio State University, CCAD is designing, developing and prototyping the BUC. Students from the industrial design classes have been working on this concept for 5 semesters. They are envisioning a new future in order to drive down the costs of transportation.
You hear this notion of diversity across the board, and diversity has obviously has a look, at least a perceived look, but I think there's a diversity not just in what people look like, but in how they think. And I think finding that diversity, I don't think you can find that as easily as you could here. Here you've got a mixture of students. Many times they're trying to find where they're going. They have some sense of this kind of crazy creative world that they want to live in. They oftentimes don't know what that means. They don't know what that looks like from a career perspective. But I think having that diverse mindset and background just totally opens the doors to really creative executions that would not be possible otherwise without those hardships, without some of that luggage, without probably a few skeletons. You're not going to get that color. You're just going to get beige. So I think coming to a school like CCAD, it may feel a little awkward, right? If you're not used to different mindsets and opinions, it may be challenging, but if you're looking for somebody to look at something differently, you got to seek different people with different mindsets. Come here for different approaches, come here for different mindsets, come here for different thinking.
The main consumers are millennials, older adults, and rideshare service providers. Research is key to understand the redesign, and the research was intense. With observations, questionnaires and focus groups, the students were able to assess needs. Students worked with the Central Ohio Transit Authority, Share Mobility, and received training from Age Friendly Columbus. After this unique immersion, students began to create thousands of sketches, digital interfaces, material experiments, and then a full-scale prototype called a BUC in the automotive industry. It was then refined through user testing with intense feedback. The BUC is in its 3rd prototype. Traditionally, automakers focus on the younger generations for new models, but according to the US Census, the number of boomers rivals the number of millennials. However, there is a big difference in household income between these two groups. Some older adults find it difficult to maintain a vehicle, and without a lot of social interaction, they become isolated and alone. Public transportation is difficult to use since there is little physical comfort and it becomes complex. Door-to-door service becomes an important part of convenience. So then, the vehicle itself becomes a challenge, and the industrial design students know how to dig deep into the needs of the boomers and millennials. This type of project in size, scope and execution would challenge many professionals, but the CCAD students develop the buck according to market and target customers. Even though older adults tend to shy away from technology and millennials thrive on it, the buck is one thing they have in common. Millennials tend to want more time on their phones or laptops. The buck gives them the ability to do this and get where they need to go. For some older adults, driving just isn't an option anymore. But taking that sense of freedom from them can be detrimental to their mental health and well-being. This shared mobility vehicle allows them to maintain that freedom of going out on their own and continue doing the things they love. The millennials and older generation have a common ground of freedom to do what they want, to be on the move, to maintain their independence, and have their future of movement at their fingertips.